Oh, I do like these seats. Let's talk about these seats. Oh, it's that worrying moment where you wonder whether you switch the camera on. Probably the thing I get most asked about this car is about the seats, about these recaro seats. And I know they're not available in all markets. I believe in the US they're not available because they don't have any airbags. I think in Australia, for example, they're the default option on the RS there, and in Europe they're a cost option. I can't remember, I should have checked before this video, I think I paid about €1,500 for the seats. So they're not cheap. Why did I spec them? I spec them because, and why am I talking to myself? I spec them because basically two things. I thought they'd be better for track days because I was going to use my car for track days, and the other one was that I just quite like the look of them, to be honest. I thought they looked pretty cool. That seems a bit superficial. But I was a bit worried at the time as to whether, because this is my daily driver, so I wondered whether are they seats that I could comfortably use every single day. And I was particularly concerned about it because I actually suffer from a bad back. When I was 21, I slipped a disc in my back, and ever since then, well, the last 5 years, I've suffered with lower back pain. So I've always had lower back pain. As far as I can remember, I've always had lower back pain. And sometimes it goes and it's hell on earth. But, so comfort for me and seat comfort is really, really important. But when I spec this car and spec the seats, I was like, I've got to be a bit selfish here. Well, I've got to be a bit superficial and think, well, they look good, and I think for track days they may be better. So let's talk about the comfort side of stuff. Firstly, they are really comfortable. They are surprisingly comfortable. I've driven in really long distances in this car for hours and hours and hours, and I've never had any back pain, any discomfort whatsoever. And I say that hand on heart because I'm very open and very honest with my comments about all my cars. And these seats have been great. They are really comfortable. I didn't think they were going to be so comfortable, but they are just right. The shape, I don't know what it is. The material, the shape, I'm not sure. But they fit just right. Everything about them is just right. And I sit in this car perfectly comfortable, and I can sit in here for hours, and I have done. I'm doing on really, really long trips. Never had any problem. Never come out of the car going, whoa, or aching. Like when I come out of the Ferrari sometimes and I can't even feel my legs anymore. So it's surprisingly comfortable, surprisingly comfortable. And so if you're worried about, if you're like me, if you suffer from any sort of back pain or anything, fear not. These are exceptional seats. They really, really are. I suppose the biggest gripe with the seats is the getting in and out, because they've got quite a high sort of side here, and so getting in and out, you sort of have to sort of go over the side of the seat. It sounds a bit silly, and people getting into the car for the first time always knock their privates on the side bolster because they don't expect it to be so high, so then they fall into the seat. So apart from that, it's no problem. Mine is wearing a bit on the left here because my big fat ass keeps scraping it as I come in and out of the car. It's getting worse considering the car's only a year and a half old. It's going to look pretty tatty pretty quickly, I think. It's already looking quite worn. I know some people put seat covers on them, but I don't really want to cover them up. I mean, that's the whole point, is that these really cool looking seats, if I cover them up, they're not going to look very cool anymore. So anyway, I might have a look, or anybody's got a good suggestion that doesn't cover the entire seat. There might be a way to actually protect that bolster a bit better. But apart from that, okay, the getting in and out is a little bit awkward, but not a massive problem. It's not like, oh my god, I can't get in and out of the car very well at all. It's not like that. So apart from that, they're all fine. Obviously, the biggest gripe by far from day one was always the height of the seats. And I mentioned that earlier, or did I? No, I'm not sure if I did now. So these seats are fixed in height, and it is also because of some safety tests or whatever. So, and they were set at their highest position. Now, the standard recaro seats you can adjust for height, and these you couldn't adjust for height, and you still can't adjust them for height. They are fixed in one position, which is really annoying because they fixed it in the worst possible position, which is the highest position, which is fine if you're very short, but if you're remotely tall or average, you sit too high. Now, I did a video a few months ago of a product by a company called JCR. I've forgotten the whole name. I'll put a link in the description. And JCR, really good guy there called Jonny, he designed a product that lowers the seat considerably. I mean, it drops it by, I think it was 55 millimeters, which doesn't sound like a lot. But actually, when you look from behind and you look at the two seats, the passenger one and the driver's seat, you'll see that there's a huge difference between the two seats. And when you sit in the car, you feel this is where you should sit. You should sit down here. You should sit on the floor. I am sitting on the floor. When I sit here in the passenger seat, which isn't very often, I feel like I'm really perched up, really, really high. But sat here with this lowered seating position, it just transforms the car and the experience, everything. So if you have these seats, highly recommend that you lower them. You buy this kit, okay, it's not cheap either. I think for both seats it's about £500, so it's not a cheap setup, but massively worth it. Before you spend money on exhaust or engine tuning or anything, just lower the seat, put it at the height that God wanted it to be, and you will notice a massive difference. You know, I get in this car, it feels like a sports car. Before it was a bit like, oh, I'm sort of like driving it a bit like MPV style, but now, no, you feel like you're actually in a race car. Everything is at the right level. The gear stick is up here. In fact, if anything, now you're so low, the sort of the arm hits the central armrest here, which is a little bit annoying, but it just shows you how much lower you are that's happening. And you know, the steering wheel's right in front of me. My eyes are right in the middle of the screen here, which is where they should be. And I noticed the other thing as well, just on the last point about the seats and the lowering, is that in one of my early videos I talk about a problem, something that really irritated me with the car originally was the fact that I get a lot of glare from the dashboard, and obviously here in south of Spain it's always very sunny. Ironically, apart from today where it's not sunny at all. It's actually a bit overcast, but normally it's quite sunny, and I get this real glare off the dashboard, and it's awful. I mean, it really sort of blinds you. But now, sitting down here, I don't have that problem. It's sort of gone. Because the dashboard is so much higher, I'm not looking down on the dashboard, so I'm not getting the reflection that I used to get from the sun. And that for me is a massive benefit alone. Just that is a massive benefit. So anyway, I highly recommend that kit. Have a look, check it out. I'm not the only one to say it. I think there's lots of people who commented on my previous video about it. I'll try and see if I can put a link to that as well in the description. It really does transform the experience. I cannot stress it enough. It is absolutely brilliant. And by the way, I'm not on any commission from Jonny for his product. I just completely sold on it, and I was desperate when he announced he was going to make this product. I was like, oh my god, I need that so badly, because I just felt the driving position was a bit compromised. So that's height. The other thing I suppose is to consider with these seats is that they are slightly wide. And in one of the videos where I took my kids to a track day, and I was thinking my kids are quite narrow, and they were all over the place in the seats. It didn't really hold them in very well. They hold me in okay. I find the standard type seats, like for example the ones in the Fiesta ST, are much more narrow, so they really hold you in. I think they hold you in better than these. These are, if you're wider frame, I think these are fine, and these are probably great, and they really will stop you sort of flying around. If you're of a smaller frame, I think the standard seats would probably suit you better, because I think the standard seats just are that bit narrower, and they're more designed for different shapes. So these are, because they're so fixed in their shape and their purpose, and because they have to accommodate so many different sizes, again, a bit like the height thing, they're probably made as wide as they need to go as well. So if you're very narrow, standard seats. If you're sort of average size like me, I'm not fat, If you're average size or a bit bigger, then these recaro seats are great. Right, so I think there's only so much you can say about seats. Did I do the right thing in getting these seats? Yes, I think I did. I really like the seats myself. Obviously, you know, I do a lot of track days. For the track days, for me, they're great. I'm sure the standard seats will be fine on track days as well. I just like the look and the feel of the seats. I think the interior of this car has always been it looks a little bit standard. And I think these seats sort of lift the interior a little bit. So personally, I just like the look of the seats. They suit me very, very well. I'm very comfortable in here. I don't have any discomfort whatsoever. So for me, they are the perfect seat. I would struggle to find another car where I am this comfortable, but only in this lowered seating position. I think you can't go wrong with either seat. I think they're both, you know, anything that says recaro is generally good. You know, I don't think you can buy a bad recaro seat. I've never sat in a bad recaro seat. So either seat is going to be a good option. These are, in theory, a bit lighter, so it's a bit of weight saving there, which is always a benefit, because the car is a little bit heavy anyway, because of its all-wheel drive system. So you've got a bit of a weight saving, but again, think about your body shape, your body size. That is definitely a factor with these seats, and definitely look to lower them if you get them, because it just makes all the difference. But whatever you do, I've got to take this car, excuse me. Oh, you've got to love that power. You can overtake anything. Well, I hope you found that remotely interesting. For those of you who have asked me questions about seats, I hope that answers them. And if there's anything else you want to know, please leave a comment. I'll answer them as well as possible. I try and answer all the comments. Anyway, hope you found that useful, and I'm off. Catch you very soon. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.